Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now before Christmas, Rhino Rescue sent me a few different types of IFAKs. Previously we have looked at the Rhino Rescue medium first aid kit, but they've also sent me one of their IFAK trauma kits. With the IFAK trauma kit, there's a lot more in here, and this is designed to deal with a little bit more than this version here. This is great for bumps and scrapes and maybe some more severe kind of injuries. However, with the IFAK trauma kit, this is designed for a lot more, which we will have a look at in a second. Now I do want to give exactly the same caveat that I give at the beginning that I did for this one particularly, and especially with this one. As far as medical training for myself, I work in the big pharma industry. I work around doctors. I am not medically trained myself. However, I have been to several first aid at work certificates. I've had my certificate several different times. They run out after, I think it's a couple of years. I currently don't have a certificate. However, I have been on that course and have repeatedly been on that course several times. Some of the things that I may say today, if I say something like just use some common sense, I'm not downplaying the skills that are required to be a healthcare professional. I'm just saying in some instances that you need to use some common sense. Additional caveat to that is that everybody in the internet will have their idea of what needs to be in an IFAK, or specifically what needs to be in a trauma IFAK. The one that we have here, this is one that Rhino Rescue have decided this is what needs to be in it. Some of you may be seething that they didn't include X, Y, and Z. If you want to add those to this, you can add X, Y, and Z to this at a later date. If you see something in here and you're like, well, that's ridiculous, I don't understand why they'd put that in there, it's cool, you can take it out. Maybe at the end of this, if you want to leave some comments of things that you would potentially add to this, I think that'll be great to hear, but just under the understanding that this is what Rhino Rescue feel that you need. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. For me, you know, from my experience, some of the things in here I will use. Some of the things in here I don't have the training to use. However, it's good to have them with me just in case there is a medical emergency and somebody else is there and does know how to use those. And, you know, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. I hope I got that the right way around. Anyway, less of me talking about caveats and working people up. Let's have a look at what you get inside the IFAK trauma kit. Here we have the IFAK trauma kit. Now it comes in one of these Ziploc bags, which of course you could just discard the Ziploc bag. I've been keeping it in here mainly because of dust and dirt and water and that sort of stuff. As I'm sure you'll all agree with medical equipment, you want to keep it as clean as possible. So I'm going to try and keep it clean whilst taking out here as well and showing you the different things that are in here. But you can zip this open, take it out. Now, not just the trauma IFAK that you get in here, but you also get a few other items, which I'll just show you quickly. So that's the bit that comes with it. So you get a TTCC card. Incredibly useful, mainly because of, especially for me, I have a terrible memory. So if you have an accident with yourself, or whether it's somebody that you're with, or even a member of the public and you just want to help them out, useful to be able to write things down so that you can say, this happened, because how your memories work is in 15 minutes time you may have either forgotten or your memory has told you that something different has happened. If you're going into shock, or if they're going into shock, it's useful to be able to remember those things, so you can write down important information on this card. If you don't have a pen, don't worry, it does come, there is a pen in the IFAK. Here as well, so there is a small quick first aid manual. The first aid manual starts off with some kind of the tactical first aid side, as far as how to use a tourniquet, how to use chest seals, how to use a bandage, even a splint, because this does come with a splint. And there are some other things in here which are more of the technical side, I guess. That's probably the wrong term for it. I'm just trying to work on my terminology. For example, a nasal airway thingamajiggy. Now, I've never been trained how to use these. This is where I know I've used the term common sense comes in. If you're not sure on how to use something, don't panic and don't do it. If you're in any way, shape or form going to make the patient worse, or if a paramedic turns up or somebody turns up and you've made their injuries worse, you certainly don't want to do that. This does give you some advice though on how to use certain things. And then towards the back, there's just kind of some really helpful first aid stuff on burns and scalds, external bleeding, sprains. Again, some of this stuff, if somebody's spraying something, try and immobilize it. Don't make them move, because you might make it worse. If you're out in the cold, there's a thermal blanket in here. Why don't we try and make them warmer, kind of stuff? Again, and I know I'm using the term common sense, but hopefully that's explained why I use the term common sense. And then on the back here, whether you're in the European Union, China or North America, wherever you are, there's some numbers to call on here. Although it says England to call 112, I would definitely call, especially if it is a severe medical injury, I would call 999 instead. So here is the IFAK itself. Now, as far as your measurements are concerned, it comes in roughly about 8 inches by about 6 inches across, and probably about 4 inches deep. I will put the exact measurements down here for you. Not too big, not too small. It is definitely something that you can still fit in a bag. Whether, I mean, a 20-litre bag, you can still fit this in, and you can fit another jacket and some other stuff. If you carry kind of 30-litre bags, which is my general go-to style bag, this fits in with no issues whatsoever. It doesn't take up much room at all, and certainly doesn't weigh much. It's constructed from a, I'm going to say, Cordura-esque style material. There are no Cordura logos on here, but it's that kind of tough, maybe 500D style material. On the back here, it does have some PALS webbing, so if you have a MOLLE supported system, then you can put it onto here. There is a clip on the front, mainly because, so one, it keeps it from coming open, but two, if this is on the inside of a backpack and you've got this in a certain position because you have other things around here, but you need to be able to take it out, what you can do is you can undo that buckle, and then you, with a quick rip, quick rip, it is a rather large hook and loop section on the back, but you can remove it from here. So again, if you need to leave this with somebody, or I suppose you wouldn't really leave it with them, but you know what I mean. You can take this off here so that you can easily unattach it from some PALS webbing. Now on the front here, we have some laser cut PALS webbing. It does come with this small little Rhino rescue patch. And I believe these also come in a few different colours. There's the black version I have here, I think there's tan, there's green, and there is also a red version for people that, I really want to make sure that people know that this is a first aid kit. This will open. I'm just going to move this here to the side, mainly because I'm going to put this on my lap so that we can have a look through here. There's a little grab handle here on the top, and then you have a double ambi open zippers, and this will, as you'd expect from any sort of IFAK, this will completely clamshell open. Let's move my knees a little bit closer to this. This will completely clamshell open for you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this off, because this does separate. So I'm just going to take this and put that down to the side for a second. I'm also going to take these out for a second, just to make sure that they don't drop. Now here on the right hand side, you have a tourniquet. The tourniquet that came in the smaller kit that we looked at in the previous piece of content, that was mainly designed to slow blood down. This is a tourniquet that will definitely stop your blood. It's one of those you wrap it around and you kind of twist it and lock it in. To make sure though, as you should do with all tourniquets when you're adding a tourniquet, you need to make sure that you're writing down when it was put on. There is a small pen here so that you can write that down. It's also a waterproof pen as well, which kind of makes sense. Actually, let's put that there next to the tourniquet. Now next to that you have a couple of other items. So you do have an emergency blanket. So if somebody's going into shock, or if it's just they are exceptionally cold and you're worried about hypothermia, then you can wrap this around them, hopefully help to increase their core temperature. And then behind that you do have a splint. So this is one of those ones that folds out, and then once it's folded out, hopefully you can see here on the back, once it's folded out you can then turn that round a limb so that you can then immobilize the limb, hopefully, and either one, help to get somebody from somewhere, or two, help to alleviate some of the pain, especially if that limb is mobile and there's things protruding from it. But yes, so it does come with one of those kind of bendy ones. But once that's folded out and then you kind of turn it into a U shape to go all the way down the limb, then that will help to immobilize that. That's here on the left hand side. Now there were two additional items that were on here. So there are some trauma shears. These are your typical trauma shears, the disposable style trauma shears. They will do the job that they need to do. The scissors that came in the other pack were just really for opening all of these up, whereas these will, although I haven't tested them, they look the type that will cut through clothing. And there's also a little spring gate here as well. I was going to open these, but hopefully you can see that a little bit better on there. And then you also get the bit that I mentioned before. This is one of those bits that you stick in somebody's nose. This is an airway, a nasal airways device, or whatever it's called. I'm sure these are really good fun if your buddy's asleep and snores a lot. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. Do not take that as medical advice. Here on the left-hand side, so this bit mainly is you're stopping bleeding and you're stopping. You're immobilizing joints with the splint. On this side, a little bit more around, I suppose, tending wounds themselves. So you have in here you have two compressed gauzes. Just going to put those there on the side for a second. You have another. Now, what do they call this? So this is a gamma sterilized, this is a 6-inch wrap, that's what it is. So you can take this out, and then you, again, just so here you can see it's illustrated with an arm. Hopefully you can stop some bleeding with that, or at least you're going to be able to cover a wound. We also have some additional bits in here. So we have an elastic bandage, again, for making sure that everything's tied down afterwards. There is also some medical tape, which again adds to that, being able to tie something down. Especially you don't want to make sure that you're putting any pressure on certain wounds. Maybe if it's on the eye, or maybe if it's an open wound and there's something protruding from it, you don't want to put direct pressure onto that. So lightly putting something over and then having some tape there instead will certainly help. Then have a triangular bandage, we have dry burn, we have an abdominal pad, and then we also have two types of chest seals. So there is a chest seal and there is a vented chest seal. Now, I haven't used one of these before. It does give you some information on how to use them. If you've read through that information and it is going to save somebody, then I think I'm just getting back to some common sense. If you're worried that you're going to do some damage by using it, now the type of chest seal that it is, I believe they're not particularly difficult to use. As long as you have, I probably have a read through that instruction, through that first aid kit before trying any of these. Some of them are reasonably common sense on how you use them. Some of them do take a little bit more experience, and it's good to be able to. I haven't mentioned whilst I'm doing this, but I'll kind of put these to one side for a second. have a look for some other training that's out there. Companies like, or organisations like the St John's Ambulance are great companies to get in touch with so that you can do some training, first aid training with them. All of the first aid at work certificates that I've done have all been through the St John's Ambulance. They're an absolutely amazing organisation. Now this was the bit that I took out. Sorry, I know I waffled a little bit there while I was putting everything away, but this is velcroed here on the side here, so when this opens it just kind of covers these two bits, and then it will stay there when it closes. But instead I'm just going to take this out, and this is more, I mean it's a little bit more advanced than a bumps and scrapes kit. But this is like your wipes, your gloves, your plasters, that sort of stuff. So if I just take these out, in fact, let's take the top few out. So you have a CPR mask in here. If the person that you need to give CPR to has got blood around the mouth, and you're concerned maybe about the patient, and you don't want to get blood into your mouth, then you have a CPR mask. There are also 2 packs of gloves. 2 is nice. What I will definitely do, in fact I have some at home, my wife's a phlebotomist, so I steal them off her. Put some more gloves into here. You have some pins again for holding dressings in place. If you're not going to use the tape, then the pins are just as useful. There is a tongue depressor in here, which I guess is nice. Yep, that's that. Right, now let's get these extra little bits out here. I'm doing this slowly mainly because I definitely don't want to drop any of this on the floor. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's useful not to get it dirty, so I'm putting it down on the side there mainly because I know it's on somewhere that isn't dirty. Now the bits that are in here, so you have some lubricating jelly because we always need to stay lubricated. There is some burns gel, and then we have a few different types of wipes. So as far as alcohol wipes, there are quite a few alcohol wipes. Eventually you'll get to some stings. There's some stings in here. What's that one? So you have some antiseptic wipes, you have some sting relief, and then you have some soap again if you need to be able to clean your hands either before or after, depending on what has happened. There is an eye shield in here, which I think is quite cool. Cool, that's probably the wrong word for it. But certainly if there's been an eye injury, and I know I mentioned before you don't want to put direct pressure onto the eye, you can put this over the eye, and then you can bandage up, and again you can make sure that it's protected. We then also have a few different types of compresses, so there are 2 types of wound compresses there as well, and then we have some sterile eye pads, and then last but not least, which funnily enough will probably be the thing that gets used the most for me and out walking with my wife and daughters, you have a few different types of plasters. Now I say a few different types, there's 14 different types of plasters in here, from small ones that'll just go around your finger to large ones covering a larger area, and then you get some of these butterfly shaped ones for like the back of your heel or inside your hand, or those strange kind of nooks and crannies that a normal style plaster will have difficulties going into. So these are all those extra bits. Now again, I know I refer to this as bumps and scrapes. There's a few different bits in here that are probably past a bump and scrape. You wouldn't necessarily use a tongue depress for a bump and scrape, but I guess that they just decided that this is probably the best place to have that, because it does kind of float around a little bit. But then yeah, so these are all back in here. I'm just being careful as I open that, just to make sure I don't drop anything on the floor. Close this up. And then there you have it. It is good to go. Now what I will do, as I mentioned, I will put this back inside the Ziploc bag to make sure that it is protected from dust and water contamination. And then yeah, I'll keep this back in the boot of my car. So there you have it. Now I know I mentioned at the beginning of this a couple of caveats and specifically said, this is what Rhino Rescue feel that they should have included in here. And I did mention some of you may certainly have more experience than I have, whether that's in a civilian medical role, or whether some of you, because I know definitely a lot of you have been medics in whichever forces around the world, and I'm going to open this up to you guys. Just be respectful whilst in the comments. I know you guys usually are, but what would you potentially add to this? And if anything, if there's anything in there you think maybe isn't needed, if there's anything that you take out, it's always good to hear. Now for me, this is the one that I keep in my car and has been sat in my car in the boot for the last few months since having this. I take the small one out with me when I go out on walks. If I think that I'm going on a particularly dangerous walk, now I say dangerous, here in the UK, the mountain rescue teams generally don't get called out for people falling off cliffs or being attacked by rabid badgers. Generally, and in fact, I think in 2024 and the previous several years, the most common injury for people out that mountain rescue have been called for is sprained ankles. I probably should carry this, and I still can carry this. With the size of this, it's not particularly massive, but for at the moment, this is what I keep in the boot of my car, and I take the other one with me as well. But I think maybe, especially as I have a few big walks coming up, I'll take this out with me as well, because it's not particularly heavy and doesn't take up a massive amount of room. So yes, now I do want to say a huge thank you to Rhino Rescue. So I mentioned at the beginning of this in the footnotes, hopefully you saw at the beginning, this was sent to me free of charge. I'm under no obligation to like super happy with this. They just wanted my fair kind of review and outlook on the items that are in here, and hopefully through the things that we've discussed and we've looked at in here, I've probably shown some of my lack of knowledge, but hopefully shown that this is yes, this is a fair review. I'll leave all of Rhino Rescue's links below. Do you know, I just remembered something that I forgot I mentioned with this. You can purchase these, but then you can also purchase the refills. So if you've used the vast majority of the items in here and you just want to refill with the same items, then they sell them in kind of like Ziploc bags, like the Ziploc bag that this came in, so that you can refill the bits that are in here. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there, but I've just realised that I forgot to mention that while we were going through it. But yes, I'll leave all of Rhino Rescue's links below so that you can see more from this IFAK and the small medical kit, and also some of the other items that they have as well. I'll leave some of my social media links below as well, so you can see more from me here on Moorlander EDC and my sister channel Moorlander Tactical. And whether you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. Should we change the angle ever so slightly so we're looking at Cynthia? This is Cynthia. She's been in a lot, and I mean a lot, of my content. Some of the stuff you've seen Cynthia on here on YouTube. Some of the stuff it's been on another specialist site. Me and Cynthia have an amazing relationship. She's been there through me. She's been there with me through thick and thin. Yeah, Cynthia. This small hollybush here, this is Doris. She's a filthy hollybush. Yeah, the less said about that, the better. Filth, absolute filth. Anyway, let's get Cynthia in. We should get Cynthia in. Oh, I've got some shit stuck in my boot. There's a snake in my boot. I do wonder some days if I have a. Can you get like semi-Tourette's? Is that a thing? I do have a habit of coming out with strange outbursts sometimes. Is that a thing? Semi-Tourette's? That's just when you get a semi and swear a lot. Maybe. I don't know. Ding it a little bit. Oh. Each day's filthy, Timothy. Forgot what I was going to say then for a second. Is that a dog walker? Are you a dog walker, or are you just spying on me? Not that people spy on me, but Maybe they are. It's the feds. It's the feds! Hi, I'm the Moorlander, and these are very crinkly. Which is an IFAK trauma kit. There's a little bit less in, no, a little bit less. Wazik. The red battery light has been flashing at me, rather provocatively, enticing me to stop recording. Part of me is edging at this, thinking, when will it turn off? Is it going to be now? Is it going to be now? No. It's what we call in the industry as a battery tease. Anyway, been a bit smutty today, haven't we? I hope you're all having a great week. I hope you're all having a great 2024 so far, and I will see you soon.